Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Eric B.
Today we are joined by a very special guest and fan of Podcast Recovery, actually. Ashley, how are you doing today?
So good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. I'm wearing a Peaky Blinder hat, but I guess,
Shut up, Eric.
it's
We're
fine.
great. We're great here. Where are you from, Ashley?
I'm from the Chicagoland.
Oh,
Currently situated in the northern suburbs. I live in Winnetka.
I have no idea.
Eric lived in Chicago.
It's a really
did.
rich suburb, and I'm not rich.
Oh.
Is it near, I'm trying to think. Is it, near Evanston or, Schaumburg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I work in Evanston. It's 10 minutes from Evanston.
Cool. Chicago's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome place.
All
I
right.
do love it.
Well, when were you first introduced to recovery?
Somewhere around May of 2016.
Nice. And how long have you been sober?
Sobriety date is December 23rd of 2016.
That is a fantastic
So
sober
it took
date.
me about... Thank you. It took me about 6 months to figure it out, but it felt like 100 years.
I hear you.
Mm.
All right. Well, with all that out of the way, we're going to turn it over to you. So pitter patter, let's get at her.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I'm so grateful to be on. Your podcast has been a big part of my sobriety in the past year. So I'm really grateful for the time that you guys put into this.
You're
So
welcome.
I'll dive into
And
my
thank you.
story. Yeah, thank you. So I recently went to a shaman for a healing session, and she said that she, sees or believes that I come from about 5 generations of alcoholics. I've got them on both sides of my family. And so that, just kind of paints a picture of what I was born into and what I grew up around. And just what was modeled to me. So I think I've said this before, but I think if you would have asked me as a young child what I wanted to be when I grew up, maybe I wouldn't have the words to say this, but truly I wanted to be a functional alcoholic. I wanted to party super hard, but still be able to make it to work and make a living.
Yeah.
And so basically I set off on a path to do just that. And from a young age, I'm sure you guys can relate. I mean, I can relate to this. When I was drinking, anything that got in my way of drinking was annoying, and I just wanted that person or thing or whatever situation to get away from me so that I could drink. And so unfortunately, when I was a child, that's how I felt around my whole family. I was an annoyance, so it was just please go away so that we could drink. And so as soon as I was old enough to join the party, I did in full force. So I want to say that I started drinking in 5th grade-ish, and my family was pretty open to it too, so I would just drink right alongside them. You guys usually ask, what was your first drink? And I've been thinking about that lately and cracking up because do you guys remember the drink Zima?
Yes. Absolutely.
I remember the name.
Your first one was a Zima?
I'm pretty sure that's what my mom used to drink, and I think that was probably my first sip of alcohol.
Oh, God, that's
Which
horrible.
is I don't think around anymore.
No, it doesn't even exist. Wow.
No, so it was either that or Mike's Hard Lemonade,
Yes, me too.
Which, by the way, alcohol tastes disgusting when you first drink it, but for some reason it's oh, just do it again and it'll grow on you.
Yeah.
So
It's a weird thing.
So basically, it's so weird. Why do we want that?
Yeah, the whole
Anyway.
acquired taste thing is kind of a fucked up thing. Be I know it's disgusting now, but just push through the
It's gonna be
disgust.
great.
It's going to be great eventually, I promise.
Yeah. So started drinking pretty young, started hanging out with older people pretty young. And, I was doing what my friends that were 4 or 5 years older than me were doing, which, you know, escalated from drinking to sex to drugs to, you know, what is the next high and how much higher can I take this? And, you know, it wasn't a matter of time, like before, like I went from drinking things like Zima and Mike's Hard Lemonade to like started smoking pot. So, you know, escalate. High school turned into drugs, got pretty heavy into cocaine and ecstasy in high school. I'm from a small town, by the way, in central Illinois, very much a farm town, very much work hard, play hard culture. So I didn't even really stick out, right? Because everyone was just doing that. There was nothing else to do in a small town in high school, so we drank and did drugs. So then went to college, and again, it's like, where else can I take this? How much higher can I take this? So really my drinking dialed down a bit, and I started, was introduced to like mushrooms and acid, and my favorite drug ever was opium. I used to smoke that and do homework.
Jesus,
and,
Eric.
You know, miraculously...
Opium's great.
No, it's not.
I mean, I know exactly what she's talking about right now.
I loved it. I mean, you guys, I would like get an A+ on my business calculus test, and we would, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this because like don't do opium, but we would like go into class the day after a test to go over the test, and the teacher would send me home because I have aced the test. And I'm not saying that's because of opium, because it's really not.
I understand. But I used to study and get high too. Like I get it. Like I totally get what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you know, part of my story is that I was a functioning, in some way, alcoholic and used drugs, but I still ended up broken, which I'll get to. So, you know, miraculously, I graduated college in 4 years. I'm not saying that that's the way anyone else should aim to do it, but that's what it was. And truly through college and up to this point, like, I never thought that my drinking or drugging was a problem or that I stuck out in any way from anyone around me. So, you know, during that time, you know, relationships bad relationships are a big part of my story. And so, you know, I just want to say that in college, I think I was 19. I went out with an ex-boyfriend who was bad news. I was also bad news at the time, and got arrested at 19 for underage drinking, possession of like drugs and paraphernalia. I had a fake ID, so I think I got like false identification and domestic battery at 19 years old.
Domestic battery?
And that didn't even scare me.
Wait.
How did that happen?
I was out with an ex-boyfriend. We went to some like an all-you-can-drink, an all-inclusive thing. So, of course, I'm like, give me the booziest drink possible. Was smoking weed outside at the same time, blacked out, like truly do not quite remember what happened, but I'm pretty sure I punched him like in the face in a bar restaurant, and the manager called the police on us, and I got arrested.
He didn't get arrested.
My ex-boyfriend, he didn't, and he had also hit me back, but he was a headbutter, and so he would strategically place. What? Yeah, I think he headbutted me in the forehead or something.
Why would you headbutt somebody in the forehead? Okay.
That was his move, you guys.
Okay.
He had a move though? Like,
yeah, you gotta have a move, dude.
Yeah, you guys, I was in an abusive relationship. This is what happened.
Yeah. I had an ex, her move was throwing lamps.
I laugh now, but oof. Yeah. And, you know, my move was that I had a large ring on my finger, which created a cut on his face, so I got arrested.
Nice.
Which was deserved, you guys. You can't punch people.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that took me a long time to learn.
Yeah.
That took me a really long time to learn. When I got to my fourth step and tried to find my part in that, it was very hard. Like, it was his fault. But no, you know, I was wrong that night. I was drinking underage. I was doing drugs. I had a fake ID, and I punched my boyfriend in the face, and that's not acceptable behavior. So, But like that happened. I had to spend a night in jail because the next morning was New Year's Day, and like a judge is not there, so you have to wait to see a judge on domestic battery.
Yep.
So I was like 19, sitting in jail, you know, and was a pretty good student and all this stuff, but like still didn't really scare me at all. You know, there was also a time in college that I woke up and looked out the window. I was in my apartment alone, but I looked out my window and my car was totaled, but I had driven it home, did not remember what happened. So there were plenty of things that happened that should have scared me that didn't. So when I say I never knew I had a problem until later, it's not for lack of crazy experiences. So I graduate college, and I got a job right away at a bank. So I always say that there should be some kind of life announcement for anyone that, you know, goes, you know, even if you don't go to college, but like somewhere around the 21-year-old mark, there should be like a life announcement that says, hey, I know you've been drinking every day for a while now and partying, but you should probably slow it down because it's actually not really acceptable anymore.
That would make it too easy.
But of course, that life announcement didn't happen.
No.
Right? And then we wouldn't have like cool conversations like this in your cool podcast. So, so that life announcement did not happen, and got this job. And what sticks out to me about this job is like I joined this beach volleyball, you know, recreational league with coworkers. It was super fun. I want to say that we played on, like, let's say Tuesday night. I know it was definitely a beginning part of the week night that we played. Because then it's like, well, I'm definitely going to drink that night. If I'm going to drink Tuesday, then I'm definitely going to drink Wednesday. And then it's totally acceptable to drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Have to drink Sunday because I'm too hungover. Might as well just drink Monday too. And, you know, my everyday drinking probably started... You know, in college, I did for sure. But, you know, maybe sometimes I would take a break and do some drugs, like have some time off of drinking because I was just smoking pot or whatever. But, like, my daily drinking consistently every single day started for sure at that job right out of school. So... And I found a bunch of people there that like to party. Like I worked with a lot of young people. It was super fun. And again, I was like, I don't see a problem with this. This is great. This is exactly what I was shown how to do. I was killing it. And, but I started being super, it was like hard to get to work because I was so hungover. And I was like, maybe this doesn't feel so good. And I started going to therapy. I don't know what brought me in there. You know what? I do know what brought me in there. Destructive relationships took me to therapy. And, you know, the therapist kind of says, like, how much do you drink? And I'm like, oh, a few drinks a night. Whoa, every night? I'm like, whoa. I wasn't totally truthful there anyways, and she's alarmed.
Yeah.
So I was like, So I kind of started talking to her about drinking, but I'm sure at that point I was not totally honest because I didn't even learn how to be totally honest until I found fellowship. So basically at that job, people started to notice my drinking. Like there were a lot of social events at that job, and my boss would say like, you know, how many drinks are you going to have and then drive home? And I was like, she's annoying. So I found a new job, which is what we do.
Yeah.
So this was at a location like in central Illinois, and so I found a job about 2 hours north in the western suburbs of Chicago and picked up right where I started off. Found a group of people that partied just as hard as I did. We found the best dive bar in the suburbs, and you know, we partied our asses off. And again, I could party and show up to work, and I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And you know, miraculously, I had a huge life event that changed my life. I'll give you some background first. My parents were divorced actually before I was born, so you guys go ahead and do that math. And I grew up with my... So my parents were divorced before I was conceived, before I was born. So they were married, they got divorced, they apparently still had interactions, and then my mother got pregnant, and then I was born.
Oh, yeah, I'm similar to that. That's no big deal.
Yeah, okay.
It's not the 1950s anymore. We're good.
Huh.
Totally. So when my parents, had me, my dad was a very active alcoholic, and he just basically threw his hands up and said, like, whoa, I can't, help raise a child at all. So he went one way, me and my mom went another, and I'm an only child, so it's me and my mom my whole life. And my dad lived in the same small town. Sometimes I would see him for holidays, but basically it was known from a very, early age for me. Of course, my mom said, like, he chose alcohol. I know now he was powerless, and I think he tried several times. I know that he was the type that would drink on the way home from rehab. And I know he did go to rehab like at least 3 times. But I watched him slowly over my whole life, basically slowly die from the disease of alcoholism. But that does not mean that the morning of May 3rd, 2015, when I got a phone call that said your dad died, that I was ready for it at all. I was 24 years old. Like I said, my parents were divorced. My dad never remarried. So the phone call that I got was, your dad died, and we need you to come here because we need you to plan the wake and funeral. I said, me? Yeah, so grew up real quick.
Yeah.
But not quite then. I still, at that point, really leaned on alcohol to get me through that. And I guess I should have mentioned, like, before I got my first job out of college, I pretty much just quit drugs. I needed to pass a drug test, or I figured I would have to get a job. And so I just kind of laid the drugs down and haven't touched them since. But alcohol was a different monster for me. So here I am, 24 years old, drinking a lot of tequila, planning my dad's wake and funeral. He was really the first person close to me that passed away. And so I would say that right then is where like a spiritual questioning started to come up for me. Like, if this is his body, then where is the rest of him? Like, did not compute. But, it was also very hard to process. And as an alcoholic, I was not used to all these feelings. I kicked up the drinking again, like turned the volume way up.
Oh, yeah.
And so for 6 months, I drank heavier than ever. Like, now it was 2 bottles of wine at home at night by myself, and if that wasn't enough, it was a few shots of tequila or gin afterwards to just not feel anything and pass out. And, really, like, if I don't wake up, it's fine. This is brutal.
Can I interrupt for half a second?
Period of my life. Yeah.
Gin is fucking disgusting. I'm sorry. Like, I drank a lot.
You're wrong.
No. And, like, I was looking at Eric when I thought this, and you said gin, and, like, taking shots of gin. Gin's fucking gross. Like,
You're wrong.
Like, pretty much all alcohol has a level of disgustingness to it, and that is just bottom of the fucking barrel for me. Gin, if
What
somebody
do you
was
think's
like...
more gross? Gin or whiskey?
I loved whiskey.
You're gross.
I'm gross.
Ew.
I mean, I liked both, but I'm gonna agree with Ashley here that
Dude, gin is fucking gross.
you just don't know what. I mean,
I'm
we're
sorry.
kind of getting off into like a
I'm not
sick
going
place here.
I'm not
but,
going to the
you
Kentucky
know,
Derby and enjoying a nice gin mint julep or whatever.
But
Like,
I would.
But you would
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. It's a
So I'm
it's
just-
a certain thing.
So I'm just a crud ball drinking whiskey. Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Anybody out
I used to
there,
love gin.
if you're drinking gin,
well, we don't want we want people to be in recovery.
I know.
And you brought
but
this to a sick place.
anybody
David.
who
Do you see
loves
what you're
gin
doing
out
here?
there, get to a meeting. It's gross. Anybody who loves whiskey, get to a
Yes,
fucking
there you
meeting.
go.
It's gross.
Yes.
Don't drink alcohol. It's
Yes.
bad. Watch some Barney.
Yeah.
Hugs, not drugs.
Good message.
Okay.
All right.
Back to you. Sorry.
Okay.
Had to interject.
Totally understand. So dad dies, drink. At the 6-month mark of my dad's death, because after he died, like every beer that I took to my mouth, he was a beer drinker. So every beer, every glass of wine, like every time I would, make that motion, lifting the drink from table to lips, like I finally knew that it wasn't good anymore, I couldn't deny anymore. Like, oh, I'm just doing what I was taught to do. No, it was like, you're going to die like your dad if you keep doing this.
Ooh.
So at the 6-month mark, I somehow miraculously broke my everyday drinking, years of everyday drinking, and I somehow broke it on my own. I don't know how many days I made it, maybe 7, but I do know that I had the shakes and I was having night sweats and night terrors, and I was 24 years old, and I thought this isn't, I was so much in denial. I was I couldn't really be this affected by alcohol at this age, and I remember too, I had to get blood work done, my annual blood work, and my liver enzymes were off. And I was this can't be right. I know I drink every day, but this can't be right. I know I drink, I know I drink hard alcohol, but this can't be right. You know what I mean? I'm too young, but
I hear that a lot from
alcohol
people who drink.
Huh?
I hear that a lot from friends of mine who drink, when they get their liver enzyme levels back. That's the same reaction.
Yeah.
I hear that, surprise.
You guys, it wrecks your body.
Oh, yeah.
No matter how old you are, it takes a toll. And so, a mixture of a few things, started to wake me up, which I'm grateful for. And, I broke the everyday drinking kind of on my own, but of course I couldn't stay sober any amount of time. I remember I used to write days on my bathroom mirror before I had ever gone to a meeting, and I didn't even know that meetings existed or that there was a fellowship of people that stayed sober together. I had no idea. I did not know anyone
really
that was sober or had ever attempted to be sober. I had no clue. And I remember after going to a meeting, I was oh, maybe this is what that TV show was talking about, or this meeting reference was. I had no clue.
Yeah.
And so for 6 months, I tried really hard on my own to manage my drinking myself, which, I don't know if you guys tried to do this too, but heard it a lot. I'm going to try to have one drink. I'm going to try to only drink on these days of the week. I'm going to try to only drink on holidays or not on holidays, or if it's a happy occasion or a sad occasion. I tried it all for 6 months. It wore me out. And, started Googling why can't I stop drinking, or
wait,
what
you
is
Googled
alcoholism?
why you can't stop drinking?
Yeah, haven't you Googled that?
I love it.
No,
I have not.
No,
That's
I have
awesome.
Not.
I like it.
Google that right now,
Yeah.
Eric. I want to see what comes up.
Hold on. That might be the title of this episode, But
I Googled why I can't stop drinking. That's 100% the title of this episode. That's great. Okay, continue.
So I did that for 6 months. About 6 months later, upon Google searching, I found out that there was a group of people that got together and tried to stay sober together and work the steps and share the message. And so I stumbled into a women's group at the Sober Fellowship. And there were so many women in there, you guys. It was more women than I've ever been in a room with before, and it made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was really only comfortable with abusive, chaotic men at this point.
Yeah.
So I walked in, I sat down, and of course they say, is this anyone's first meeting? I raised my hand. They started clapping. I started crying.
That
Like,
sounds
why
right.
are they clapping for me? This is not something to be celebrated. You guys are all assholes. Why are you playing this joke on me? So then, of course, they took me to do a first step with 3 other women, which I could give my opinions on that right now, but, maybe I won't. I will. It's meant to be done one-on-one, in my opinion, as it says in the big book. But anyways, 3 women took me in another room and basically told me some really brutal drinking stories. Like, I remember this one woman was Irish. She had a really cool Irish accent. And said, that she used to run on her treadmill when she was wasted and she fell down and cracked her head open and had to get staples. And
Why would you do that?
What do you think I did? Why would you tell me that? And so I immediately was like, oh, thank God I'm not an alcoholic and I don't have to come back here. So I left and I didn't come back for 6 months. So another 6 months of trying to manage it on my own. And somehow I was able to make it to 30 days quite a few times, but 30 days was absolutely my breaking point. I could not go past that. And, it was confusing during that time because I had enough evidence where I definitely knew that I had a problem and I shouldn't be drinking. And so that was enough to, help me manage it sometimes. What I'm saying is that sometimes I could have one drink. And then I would go to bed and I would wake up in the morning and say, see, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And, I could maybe do that again the next time. So then I was like, I'm totally good. But then one drink would turn into two, would turn into tequila all night, would turn into making really bad decisions. And then I would wake up and say,
tequila and
oh,
bad
shit,
decisions, that never happens.
Oh, yeah. Tequila was that was my, and really, you guys, I just wanted to escape. And
yeah.
And so I'll get into a little bit, once I took away the alcohol, I still wanted to escape. And so, it's the, which came first, the tequila or the hooking up with random men. It still happened without the tequila. So, I can use that as an excuse, but I really can't.
Mm-hmm.
So another 6 months of trying really hard and couldn't get it on my own. And so, I got humble and Googled again, where's a meeting that's not 35 women, the same meeting that I went to before.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the grace of God, I stumbled into a big book meeting. It was mixed sex, but there were a lot of strong women in there. And I only went to a couple meetings and kept hearing that, it's not meetings that will keep you sober. It's getting a sponsor and working the steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I guess I got to get a sponsor. So I went up to this, really sweet, gentle, kind, older gentleman and, kind of whispered, I think I need a sponsor. Do you know of a woman I could work with? Because they also said, you should try to, get with the same sex, if you're a woman, you need a woman sponsor. So I hoped that this gentle man could find me a very gentle woman that would put up with my bullshit. But he immediately kind of shouted, that girl over there, that's who you need to work with. And he pointed to the scariest girl in the room.
Yeah.
She was speaking serious truth. She had just shared about how she sat by her, grandpa's side as he was dying on hospice, and she held his hand. And I thought, I never want to do that shit. That's way too hard.
Mm-hmm.
But, he paired me up with her, and gratefully, I knew that if I don't figure this out, I will die. And that is the only reason why I said, yes, I will meet for coffee with this scary girl who became, she's so not scary. She's wonderful and has, such a huge heart. So she was my first sponsor. She took me through the steps. I think I worked them I don't know, maybe in about 9 months. Did not want to do the fourth step, did not want to do the fifth step, but I knew if I do not do this, I will drink, and to drink is to die. And that's the only thing that helped me drag myself through those steps. I remember in step 5, I did mine in 2 chunks, and, I did the first one, which took about 4 hours, and then needed to schedule more time with my sponsor. And she had a lot of stuff going on in her life at that point. Her brother was graduating from high school, going to prom. And I thought that it was so rude of her to not prioritize me over that. That's how selfish I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for a walk one morning, and the sun was rising, and I seriously had this awakening that was oh my God, it's not all about me. Her brother is graduating and she wants to be there with him. What must that be like?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my heart opened, right? So I waited. I said, what's the hurry? And so seriously, it was probably like a 1 week delay. Finished my 5th step, got through the rest of them. I'm still making amends today, but I have worked all the steps, and I sponsor 2 women currently, which are the biggest blessing ever. They reflect back to me all of the defects that I still struggle with, and they call like right when I'm struggling with something or about to make a bad decision. My phone rings, and it's almost always a sponsee or a program friend, and like the miracles of this fellowship are just so cool. So they're a huge blessing. And what else have I not talked about? I mean, working the steps was really brutal, but I'm a completely different person today than I was, 3 years ago, and my whole life before then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reliable. I can call you guys at 6:00 when I say I'm going to, and that's way more than I could do a few years ago. I can speak truth. Oh, I know what else I want to talk about. So after about a year in the program, my sponsor, kept noticing that the same things were coming up in my 10th step. And it was like, talking to this guy that I'm not actually interested in. Oops, I slept with this guy that I'm not interested in. Oops, I'm talking to this guy too. And she's like, Ash, I'm seeing a problem here. And, you did a great job working the steps. Do you want to work them again with a focus on relationships? And so I said yes. And we did. And I got a lot out, kept repeating the same behavior. I was stuck in repeat, exactly like drinking. Kept hitting that wall, like, better, I'm better. Nope, here we go again. Same cycle. And so she kind of told me, like, hey, there's a fellowship for this, for people who suffer from sex and love addiction. And I think you need to check it out. And it went from gentle nudging to like, you need to get your ass into this because you're getting yourself in trouble and, you need to check yourself. So I did go into that fellowship. And I will say that fellowship was, I want to say harder than the sober fellowship because, and it was harder. And it was harder because I took my sober tools. I took the tools that I use to stay away from alcohol and I try to apply them to relationships. And, relationships are process addiction. Alcohol is a substance. And I took my black and white thinking. I took my perfectionism. I took all of that into this other program and I was so hard on myself. And this second program that I'm speaking of has you set your own bottom lines. And so you can sit in a meeting and everyone's bottom lines are different. And so some people might say, I try not to have sex with more than one person in one day. And some people might say, no sex outside of a committed relationship, which was one of mine. So I went in and set my own bottom lines and I set them so strict. I set, no sex outside of a committed relationship, no dating until I work the steps, no flirting or intrigue, because I learned that I walked through life like I would walk into a room and think, who can I manipulate here? Who can I seduce here?
You actively thought that?
No way. It wasn't actively. It was so deeply ingrained in my brain.
Okay.
And
I was about to say, damn, that's fucking crazy.
No, and you know what, you guys? Like I was sober from alcohol, and I had done a thorough 4th and 5th step, and I did a 10th step on a regular basis, and I prayed and meditated, and I was of service, and I was still fucked up.
Yeah, we're crazy as shit.
Yeah, super crazy, and so I was excited to speak here and talk about this because it's nice to be able to talk about like my all-encompassing addiction and all-encompassing sobriety, because I got sober from substances and I was still crazy as fuck. Yeah. And I was suffering as a result of it. I was miserable because I wanted to connect, but I was connecting through trying to manipulate and seduce everyone that I was around. And I couldn't be loyal. I couldn't, be in a committed relationship. I didn't know how. And so I needed another group of people that were working on the same thing And I needed to be able to talk about that in a group, because if you try to bring that up in a sober fellowship, some people will look at you like you're crazy. And that's because they don't get this other type of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I took my very, black and white, don't drink, go to meetings, and I took that into this relationship program, and I was very miserable. So I thought, I cannot break bottom line, so I have to walk around in the world just looking at the ground, don't make eye contact. And, I did that for a while, and I felt really secluded and terrible. And, so I shared about it with some really wise people in the sober fellowship, and they said, I think you're being really hard on yourself, and, maybe just take a step back and take a deep breath and think about a way forward. And so I did that. And, I was also listening to your guys' podcast at this time, where you said, whatever it takes to just keep moving forward and become healthier every day, there's so many tools that you can use for that. Mm-hmm. So I basically took a step back from this relationship fellowship, and I found a different fellowship. I also think that I got addicted to recovery at some point, and I'm kind of recovering from that addiction right now. So what I do is I go
Eric's
to the sober
pointing to
fellowship.
himself. Eric's like, yes, me too.
Yeah, that happened years ago.
It's not a great place to be. I was going to 6 or 7 meetings a week, and I had no time to myself. I was being so hard on myself. So when I took a step back, I really did hear this voice that said, okay, so there's another program for children of alcoholics. And so I went into a meeting there, and you guys, it is so gentle. It is the steps will restore us to clarity, not sanity. I don't have to think of myself as insane anymore. And
I like that a lot.
I'm very fresh. Isn't that beautiful?
It really is.
The steps in that program, yeah. And, I really needed the sober fellowship, and I needed the black and white, and I needed the very rigid rules, and I needed my sponsor to be hard on me at first. And then I was being so judgmental of myself. And, at one point I really didn't discover meditation on a regular basis in a group until I was about a year and a half or 2 years sober. And now I always attend meditation meetings. And so where I'm at right now in my program is that I go to my sober fellowship. I've got my 2 or 3 core meetings that I go to a week. And then I go to only one outside meeting besides that right now. And I'm staying strict with that. Even when I feel I need more, I'm struggling, I just say, what if you sit and meditate? What if you make a phone call? From that relationship fellowship, I have a list of top lines. So not only did we make bottom lines, we also made top lines, and I'll share them with you. I've got yoga on there, walking, reading, journaling, call my sponsor, be in nature, connect with healthy women. Podcast is on here, listening to a podcast. Follow through with commitments. Do service work, go to 12-step meetings, spin class. I like to spin as well as go to yoga. They're a good yin and yang for me. Meditation, prayer, and resting. And so, for me, 12-step meetings are one of many tools for recovery. Yes. Exercise is really important for me to get my mind right. Meditation is, zoning out and listening to a podcast is, it really does fill up my cup. And so, truly, I'm not just sucking up to you guys, but this podcast has so expanded my mind, because when I first started listening, really, I would listen to some of your episodes and I would say well, they're not committed enough to their program. Because you're no, it takes all different things. I'm nope, it takes one thing. You just need to work your program and go to meetings and nothing else. Mm-hmm. That black and white thinking. And so you guys really helped me zoom out and say, no, this is one tool of many. And that has so helped me be more gentle with myself and not be addicted to recovery anymore, and to just say, this is where I'm at today, and I accept myself and I love myself. And the fellowship that I'm active in now that deals with children of alcoholics talks about connecting with your inner child. Like, what does my inner child want to do today? And I have to create space to let her talk and say, I want to go for a walk. I want to go to the beach. You know, whatever she wants to do. I want to sit on the grass and read a book. And, you know, right now I've made a commitment to listen to her when she talks, because for too long I've stuffed all of that down and I've been thinking and moving with my brain and not my heart. And so, like, that's my biggest focus right now. And it's a way better place to live. And, you know, just accepting that I'm not perfect right now. I'm never going to be perfect, but all I can do is commit to being a little bit better every day and having an open mind and heart when I listen to other people who are doing this thing and that have been doing it longer, or that are brand new but have wisdom, you know, that I haven't necessarily grasped onto yet. So I think that's my story, guys.
That was awesome.
Fantastic.
It's great.
Fantastic. Like, I got so much out of that. I feel so good right now. Like,
Cool.
oh my God. Yeah, we definitely have some questions for you.
We definitely have questions. I'm gonna go first.
Yeah,
actually.
you're gonna go first.
I'm gonna go
I need
first.
to process that. Brought like a
Yeah.
that
You
that
kinda-
last couple minutes hit me right in the feels.
You almost made
me-
David cry, but I
Yeah.
mean that's like kind of an accomplishment. But David cries a lot, so are you gonna cry? Are you okay over there?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
All right, so Ashley, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I want to I'm gonna hit the spot right where you like kind of finished off with the right before you finished, where you were talking about being addicted to recovery, and I can relate to this. About like, God, it was like 7 years ago now. When I first gave recovery like a real shot, like I got super addicted to recovery as well. I would hit at least 14 meetings a week.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I didn't have a job, so I was just focusing on recovery.
Okay.
And like, I mean,
Wow.
I read so many books. And you know, I was like GSR. I was like, it was like chair of H&I. I had like multiple commitments.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, like I get being addicted to recovery, and you know, how difficult, like for me, it was kind of weird. It was just like, for one day I was like super into it, and then for some reason I was just like, I think I started a business, and that kind of changed my motivations, because like I had something to put focus in, and some of the luster of like fellowship recovery, like I lost it, like, you know, because a lot of like the higher power at that point in time was like fellowship and the program, and like sometimes fellowship fails you, and then that like kind of chips away at it. Like how difficult was it for you to
Luna.
break kind of like that addiction to recovery?
It was really hard. And I still kind of struggle with it a bit today, because so when I was in the sober fellowship and the relationship fellowship, I had so many rules in my life. It was like, here's all these bottom lines, and like I have to call this many people every day, because like I basically cut myself off from all, you know, romantic attention. And so like I was doing all these things, and like I would check all these boxes at the end of the day. And, you know, when I decided to step back, the process of deciding to take a step back was really long and really hard. Like I knew for like a month or two, like something doesn't feel right. And, you know, I actually remember a moment that I was like in Whole Foods, and a good looking guy walked by, and like without even thinking, I looked at the floor and ran the other way, like went down a different aisle. And then I kind of woke up in the aisle and said, what am I doing? I can't live my life like this. And, you know, and if I would have gone back to the relationship fellowship, they would have been like, good job. I think, you know, I don't know. I can't speak for everyone there, but based on my bottom line and my sponsorship, like that's what I was supposed to be doing in the moment. And I kind of woke up in Whole Foods and said, if I can't appreciate another human as another human, then, you know, this isn't the life that I want to be living. Should I be trying to eye fuck everyone I see? No, like that's not the life that I want to live. But I do feel like I've broken that. kind of addiction where I walk through life just thinking, what can I get out of everyone and how can I get high off of other people? Like, I do believe today that I've successfully broken that. And so I kind of woke up in Whole Foods and said, like, I got to change something because this isn't what I want to be doing right now. I'm not happy. I feel very disconnected from really the whole world except the rooms of recovery. And so, you know, from then on, I had a commitment at this second fellowship. And so I said, you know, I'm going to ride out my commitment and I'm going to see how I feel at the end of that, and I'm going to honor it. And I really committed to meditating and listening to, you know, my higher power and what my higher power had in mind for me, rather than what my brain and my checking the boxes part of my brain had in mind for me. And the voice that I got was like, step back, you're okay. That doesn't mean that I'm totally free from objectifying people, you know, ever. You know, sometimes my prayer is like, God, please take this good-looking man out of my brain today because I can't stop, you know, I can't stop thinking bad things about him. But you know what? That prayer works for me. If I can catch myself and say, oh, God, I'm really sorry. I just totally was thinking sexual thoughts. My higher power usually takes it away. You know, it's all about, for me, recognizing the fantasy and saying, I'm ready to give this up. And it's really, you know, it's that simple. But I did need a period of, you know, total abstinence from that. And it was hard. But it's so, I guess, like, to answer your question, you know, I had to get to a point where it got really unbearable. Then I had to meditate. Then I had to listen to higher power and move forward.
Yeah. There is one other thing real quick. I just kind of want to touch on this concept. I don't really know if this is a question. Kind of the bottom line thing.
Oh, yeah.
And even the top line, but like from like a place of like just, you know, kind of, I've never heard of that before. The bottom line.
Neither have I.
And even like, you know, yeah, for most fellowships it's abstinence, but I like the concept from like a harm reduction point of view of where it's like, this is the bottom line. And like, if I'm hitting this line, like I'm doing better today. Like I've never heard that. So I thought it was cool. I'm going to like look into that, like, and read more about it. Cause like, I do think it's a cool concept. And if like, you know, people can't grasp onto the initial abstinence of,
that's
you know,
an amazing,
what it is. It's like, well, this is the bottom line, you know, and then this is the top line. And like, you know, that's really cool. I like that.
That's an amazing, like, personalization. Oh, excuse me. Of everybody's recovery.
Yeah, and I still totally, and I still use that today. You know, I have bottom lines in all of life, like not just relationships. Like I will not do certain things. Like I don't lie. You know, I don't back out on commitments unless I'm really sick or something, you know, crazy comes up. And top lines that I shared with you guys, like I think that's helpful to anyone. But it's like for me, if I don't write something down and kind of look at it, you know, it can slip my brain. I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
It's a cool
little
thing.
crazy.
It's like a really cool thing you took from that fellowship, like you know, where it's like, you know, the fellowship didn't work out, but it's like you got this like amazing, you know, top line, bottom line concept to now like move forward with. It's awesome.
I got a question. How important is it in your recovery to really individualize it for, like, I just made up this question, by the way, to really individualize it for yourself instead of using basically another fellowship's standardized recovery? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to go by anybody else's meter stick but yours and your higher power, and then discuss it with the fellowship.
For sure. Again, I kind of go back to like my top lines, and for me, yoga is huge. And you know, sometimes in fellowships, people say like, you know, meeting makers make it, and
all the cliches,
5 or die, and 90 and 90. And you know, for me, it's like a yoga class fills me up almost as much as a meeting, and so. For me, it's important that I make 3 or 4 yoga classes a week and, you know, my 2 to 3 meetings. And it's important that I get out in nature, and it's important that I read. And so all of those things come together to make me a happy, healthy person. Also, meditation, which I know is part of the steps. But
yes,
absolutely, this is, and it's funny because, in the Sober Fellowship, it's like, oh, your program? That sounds troublesome. But, I do have a program, and 12-step is really an important part of it, but it's a slice of the pie for sure.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
When at my anniversary the other day, I kind of talked about that, where it's my program.
Congrats.
People were actually really, thank you.
Very receptive.
People were really receptive. I was actually surprised.
Me too.
People were super
Good.
receptive to that concept.
I think the landscape of recovery it's evolving.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing it evolve, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I want to second one.
I also think that it's... Sorry.
Oh, no,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I also think, in early recovery, the rigidity is really important, or it was for me, because I didn't know how to live life with rules. And I needed people to tell me exactly what to do because I had no clue. I couldn't even show up to work without, being drunk or hungover. So I needed people to tell me exactly what to do. And maybe it's as you work the steps and connect with higher power, then you are reconnected with that intuition. And then you can kind of have your program because you're not a maniac anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
I'm
less
still
of a maniac.
But
Yes.
Well, I mean,
yes, totally.
you're growing, right? So you
sure.
need space to kind of branch out.
Yeah, you got to
as you grow.
Yeah, a plant starts in a small pot, and as it grows, you need more space for your roots, more space for your leaves. So you got to transplant yourself every once in a while to accommodate
100%.
that. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm taking another question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about in your story how you were constantly finding your own people, the people that drank like you drank, used like you used, partied like you partied, blah, blah, blah. So coming into recovery, what was more challenging? Was it more challenging to change those physical surroundings and get rid of those people, those places, and those things? Or was it more challenging changing the internal behaviors and the internal thoughts? And what were the challenges with both?
Ooh. Whoa.
That's a fantastic question, Eric. You're welcome.
That's a really good question. So, I was so blessed with the gift of desperation and I was also so blown away by sober people living life in a healthy way. I was pretty excited about it right away, and I was pretty ready to just lay down, my old friends and my old way of life. I was not ready to, I think the fellowship tricks you. They're like, oh, this is a place where we don't drink, but really it's a place where you have to change your entire life. So the internal behavior was so much harder. And, in addition to that, it wasn't as hard letting go of my old friends and you guys, really some of my family too. I'm not very close to a lot of my family members because they party constantly. But I knew I had to do that. So that was a little bit easier. But what was hard for me actually was accepting people who loved me unconditionally. What is that? People who showed up for me, people who were honest, and people who called me out on my shit, and helped me change my behavior. Oh, that was hard. And still to this day, the friendships and just conversations like this, present, open communication still kind of blows my mind. And it's sometimes hard to swallow. What is this? You guys wanted to spend your evening having a conversation with me? And I know that it's not about me. It's about hearing people's stories because it's inspirational, and we're all in this journey together. We're all in this boat together. But that's actually been one of the most challenging pieces of recovering is accepting other people's love and attention when they don't want anything from me.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right,
But it's
Eric.
pretty beautiful on the day that I can.
Oh, yeah.
You can go ahead, David. You have two more.
I have two.
I have one more. Go ahead.
Yay. Okay.
I'm being.
All right.
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Yes, third question in a row. All right. Okay, now some people in the sober fellowship believe there is a difference between alcoholism and addiction. And do you necessarily subscribe to that? Or do you believe that
No.
alcoholism is just a small part of a greater addictive problem?
The latter, for sure. It's, like I said, I took alcohol away and I still couldn't stop acting out in basically chaotic relationships. So that was kind of the first way that my addiction manifested. And then, let's see, coffee was a huge one at first. I would literally drink so much coffee that I would have acid reflux so bad that I would be wheezing.
Ooh.
And chocolate, sweets have been a problem.
Oh, God.
It's all the same. And, I sponsor women that, identify as addicts, and it's all the same. I just switch out one word in the steps. And, the word alcohol only appears in the first step, or alcoholism. So it's all the same. Whatever it is, we're just trying to fill a void.
Yeah.
And in my addiction, I've used a lot of different things, and alcohol has been out of my life for between 2.5 and 3 years, wherever I'm at. And I'm still an addict for sure.
All right. Fantastic answer. All right, Eric.
All right, you took my manifestation question, kind of.
I knew you were going to ask
that was my question, but I'm going to actually ask...
You were going to ask her a stock question?
I was.
She had answered it so many times.
I was still going to ask. I was going to ask,
She's clearly a listener
host.
because she went straight for it. She answered it in her story. She did.
All right, so then here's what I'll ask.
Preemptive strike.
I do have other questions, but I was going to ask stock.
I know. I have so many
I have other questions. So, I've been to the Sober and the Clean Fellowship, and there's a lot of other fellowships I want to check out as well.
Yes.
But it's difficult. Besides time, which, there isn't much of anymore.
Yeah.
No, there's never enough time.
Yeah, there's just not, as you get older, it's time's fucked. One of the fellowships I've always wanted to go to is one, I won't say the name of it, but you know which one I want to go to, David.
The science-based?
Science-based,
The
yeah.
science-based.
We'll call it the science one. Yeah, there we go.
Science-based recovery.
So, and it's hard to, go to a new place where you don't know anyone and you have to rebuild a network and you have to redo all the same fucking shit that you just did in a different fellowship.
I'll go with you, buddy.
You know what I mean? But
We'll hold hands.
Think about how many times I've moved, but I always come back to the same place in the same fellowship where I know everyone.
Yeah.
So, how difficult was it for you to go to another fellowship and have to do all the same things all over again?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a really good question, and it's been super hard. And I guess in addition to finding new fellowships in the past, so I found the relationship fellowship about a year ago. I moved from the western suburbs in Illinois to the northern suburbs about 5 months ago, and then I just started the adult children fellowship about 2 months ago. And so I've had a ton of you walk into a new meeting. Is anyone here for the first time? Yes. Is this anyone's first meeting? Damn it. Yes.
I hate that question.
Yeah. And not only new fellowships, but also all new sober meetings and trying to find my home group and, walking into new meetings saying, oh, please, can this be one that sticks? I really want to make this my home group. It's close to my house. It fits into my schedule. And then just have it be something that I can't do is be in a sober group with men who are, coming on to me or onto other women. I can't, it messes with my other recovery.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on. I was going to 7 a.m. meetings that had 50 plus people in them, but the men were so slimy. Not all of the men, and that's something I've had to accept lately too is like not all men are like just out there for sex. And so I've had to challenge myself to make friends with healthy men. Like, you guys aren't all bad, you know? And, but yeah, walking into a new room is so hard. Moving to a new place is so hard.
Yeah.
And it's especially hard when I have expectations. And so expectations and comparing are two things that I really have to look out for. And if I can walk in with a clear mind and an open heart, it always goes way better than if I walk in and say, this is bullshit. I can't believe I have to go to another fellowship. You know, if I can kind of switch that thinking to like, wow, I get to change and grow and maybe learn something today. And you know what? My best women friends ever are from my second fellowship. And, they live with such strong morals. Like, we went to the beach together like a couple weeks ago, and when we're there, we can just sit and connect with each other. We're not like looking around for trouble or chaos, right? And we're all so on the same page, and we connect deeper actually than I ever did in the sober fellowship, because that's a deeper wound that we were trying to heal. So I think like as I have found my deeper wounds and deeper needs for healing, I have found closer friends. So it's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Fantastic. All right. My final question will be, I don't know. I was about to go with a stock question, but I'm not. I'm going to go with mine. Do you agree, like, because... No, I'm not going to preface it at all. Do you agree that, like, the worst thing that can happen when you use is nothing? Like,
I do.
Yeah.
I think I do, because, well, the worst thing, I don't know if it's the worst, but it's definitely kind of detrimental to getting healthy, right? Because I know that when I was trying to control my drinking, the worst thing that could happen was I would have one drink and go home and wake up and say I don't have a problem, which then just led me to another, gin night, which nobody wants that.
No, nobody wants that.
So, no. So, yeah, I think I do agree with that.
That's a good question. Yeah, my sponsor said that he acquired some clean time, and then he relapsed, and he went to a bar and he drank, and he was like, and you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. I went home and he was filled with that like sense of security or I don't know, arrogance that like, oh, see, I got this. I fixed everything. And then the next time you go out, you might have 2 and nothing happens. Then you might have 3 and nothing happens. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
But inevitably. You will end up shit-faced somewhere.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. It's always a snowball effect. All right. Well, I think we have a Twitter question for you.
We do have a Twitter question.
Take her away, Eric.
I always have a difficult time with Twitter names.
They're weird.
So, like, this one
do you want some help?
At Sanguini89.
Whoa. What is that?
SANGWENI 89. Sanguini? Am I right here?
SANGWENI.
Sanguini.
Sanguini?
Winnie?
Sanguini?
Well, we're going to say that.
We'll say Sanguini.
So I haven't
89.
So, okay, since you're in part of the Sober Fellowship, I've been waiting for someone from the Sober Fellowship to ask this question.
Yay!
How, and we'll kind of answer it as well in our own way, David.
Okay.
But how does one not anticipate the 12 promises? And then also it kind of after this, it says, because I find myself frustrated because certain promises haven't materialized.
Oh, okay.
How does one not anticipate them? I think that one should anticipate them, right? That's, I remember hearing the promises early in recovery and thinking, like, that would be amazing. Like, that's where hope comes from. And the promises have come true for me in many ways and many times, but I also have rough patches too, and I anticipate that they will come again. So I would say if they're not coming, how can you deepen your spiritual practice? And not only through the steps, but like my sponsor encouraged me to have a morning prayer routine. And, it's not in the big book, but I journal and I try to meditate for 30 minutes a day. And I do a 10th step every single night. And I connect with other people in the fellowship. Like I make sure that I either make it to a meeting or make a phone call every single day. And when I'm doing all of those things, the promises do come true. When I fall short of those things, and then I feel disconnected. But the promises, it doesn't say that the promises will come true every single day.
Yeah.
But I think that anticipating them, well, maybe, I don't know about the word anticipating. Like if you have expectations that the promises will come true all the time, then you're going to be let down. But if you just connect with your higher power as well as you can every day and have an open heart and stay grounded and humble and connect with people in sobriety, be of service, like they will come true.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question at all?
Yeah.
Yes. I like that David's raising his hand right now, like we're in class or some shit.
Being very
And
polite.
geez,
Very polite.
Do you want to go?
I
wanted to have a short segment about the expectations. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off what you said, where it's a lot about really self-vigilance and being aware of your own thinking and expectations and where you're at.
Yeah.
Because in the fellowship I partake in,
There's only one promise.
well,
There's only one promise.
it's a 3-part one promise.
It's
So,
one promise.
Okay, shush.
What is the one promise? I'm not familiar.
The one promise is that we can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way of life.
Freedom.
So
That's an awesome promise.
Yeah, it's a 3-part one promise, and in 6.5 years, I have found pretty much all of those have come true. I've stopped using. I lost the desire to use 98% of the time. Like everyone, like shit happens. Like I still have a brain. I have bad idea bats that fly in there every once in a while. And then you're like, oh,
Call it a bad idea bat?
yeah, and then you just swat them away. Yeah, the bad idea bats.
It's a great shirt.
Oh, I know. Oh God, that is a great T-shirt. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, but like you'll have thoughts every once in a while. I'll be at a baseball game and be like, oh man, that beer looks good. And then it'll go away. And then finding a new way of life is something it's not just given to you. Like these promises, they're not just given to you. It's something that I had to work for, and I have to and it's a consistent evolving basis. I have to, like you said, with like your expectations and the vigilance and monitoring how you think these promises are manifesting in your life. But it comes down to, how am I manifesting these promises in my life? Like how?
Ooh.
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
not about
and for me,
it's not about working steps, it's about living spiritually. And like that
absolutely
is ultimately what it is. It's about changing ourselves. We can't still be that entitled brat that we were, and just saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for this to come to me. I'm waiting for God to give me this. I'm waiting for whatever, my higher power to do this for me." And it's like, no, you got you got legs, you got a brain. You can do some of this shit yourself.
Go get it. Yeah.
Go get those promises, because this is just showing it's kind of like a carrot, in my opinion. That's just how I take it. Like, if you do these things, this is what you can get. And it's like, ooh.
I like that.
I'm gonna stay clean today.
And I think too, we have to get out of our comfort zone, right? So like, we will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it.
Yep.
Well, a great way to not regret your past is to talk about it. Speak in a meeting, speak on this podcast, and know that your experience could help someone else. And the more that I say things out loud, the more that I can release the shame associated with them.
Yes.
And then, when someone says, wow, like when you said this one thing, it helped me so much. And I think that thing, like if it was either easy or hard for me to share that, it's like, whoa, I opened my mouth, I said something, and it helped someone. So I don't regret the past anymore. But that's only because I've gotten out of my comfort zone and shared it with people.
Yes.
So the promises come true if you're like courageous and
yes,
and go after them.
Fortune favors the bold. What was your 2 cents there, Eric?
I don't know. I agree with the expectations. Like I don't know, if you're anticipating something and you have these certain expectations and they're not being fulfilled on a daily basis or being fulfilled in your timeline.
Oh yeah.
Then like you're just setting yourself up for, disappointment.
Yeah. And that shit's hard.
I don't know. I go into a lot of things with low expectations because, if you put high expectations, like, I don't know, I'd rather try it like hard at something and then feel, good about it than because I came in with like moderate expectations than, be like, all right, I expect the best. And then if I fail, it's like, oh my God, I didn't do it.
That's how I feel with Marvel movies. I don't watch trailers because I don't want to get my hopes up.
It's not the same.
No, it is the
It's not
same.
the same.
It is the exact fucking
Jesus
same. I want to
Christ,
go.
man.
I want to
We're
go
not,
in
like-
I want to go in blind, just hopeful. Be like, this is gonna be whatever it's gonna be, and I'm gonna interpret it that way.
Have you been waiting for
Instead
this
of-
moment for like a few weeks? I mean, it sounds a little pent up. You know what I mean?
Maybe
Like-
we go through this a lot. We go through this a lot. It's a lot. You don't have preconceptions about your recovery, and don't let anybody else's outside preconceptions influence your recovery. Like be as open-minded and flexible. Be flexible in your recovery stuff. Like, don't be rigid and expect everything to happen all the time. Just like you said, Ashley. Like,
Yeah.
it's not all going to happen all the time. Recovery is going to fucking suck sometimes.
Yeah.
Period. Life is going to fucking suck sometimes. Like, there's going to be rainy days. Like, it's just like the world. Look at the world around you. It's not always going to be 75 and fucking sunny. Like, some days it's going to be 38 degrees, cold, and shitty. I mean, you live outside Chicago. The weather there sucks sometimes. And that's just,
38 is pretty nice in Chicago. And comparatively.
I mean, to be fair.
It's so beautiful right now, but sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, sometimes it sucks. And like some days you're going to get the promises. Some days you're not. Some days you're going to have bad idea bats about wanting to use. And then other days you're going to be like, oh, fuck drugs. This shit sucks. And it's okay. It's okay to be okay.
Some weeks and months are going to suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Sometimes when
you're going to lose loved ones and friends, and you're going to feel like shit for months maybe, but it will pass.
And exactly. And like when things are going good in life, it like for me, I think it's like life is just like playing games with you because it's not going to fucking last. Like the good times aren't going to last. The bad times aren't going to last. It's going to level off. But the real test of your recovery is when those shitty days come, when those shitty thoughts come. Are you still going to be able to pick up the phone, call your sponsor, put down the drug, put down the bottle, not go after it, not act out on your character defects or your shortcomings, and be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday?
Amen.
Boom. There it is.
All right. That's the hit, as they would say.
That is the hit, as they would say. All right. Well, I think we're one real quick thing. Real quick, Eric. I'm sorry. So we were Googling why can't I stop drinking? And
what did you find?
first of all, I stopped because I started laughing so hard. that I got why can't I stop, and then Google gives you a whole bunch of ideas of like
Oh no.
shit that normally pops up.
What were they?
So it's like, why can't I stop burping, peeing, crying, coughing, yawning, pooping, sneezing, or farting?
This isn't all at the same time.
This is the
Yeah.
list of like shit. Those are like the top 10 things. Why can't I stop crying? Jesus, I don't know, buddy, but Google doesn't know either. Why
What?
can't
I mean, was that part of your search history though? I mean, that's pretty high at the top, David.
It is third on the list. That is third on the list. Why can't I stop burping? You drink too much soda. Why can't I stop peeing? You drink too much soda. Why can't I stop coughing? You got a fucking cold, buddy. Go to the doctor. Why can't I stop yawning? Because you're
This is
tired.
amazing.
Go to sleep. Why can't I stop pooping? I don't know. Again, go back to the fucking doctor. Why can't I stop sneezing? You got a cold. Go to the fucking doctor. Why
Yeah.
can't I stop farting? I don't know. You got to change your diet, bud. There are your Google answers for the day. You're welcome, everybody out there who has one of those afflictions.
All right.
Dr. David is out. Okay. We would like to.
So good.
That was very good. All right. Well, we would like to now thank our guest Ashley for joining us today. Let's give her a clap. Woo. Great job, Ashley. All right. We're gonna give you one quick 60 seconds to talk to anybody out there who's struggling, needs a shot of hope, needs to hear that message to get them through the next hour, the next minute, the next day, the next week, whatever. What do you have to say to them?
I have to say that, there's hope no matter where you're at, no matter how low you've gone, and you don't have to go any lower than where you're at right now. Pick up the phone and call the one person that you're comfortable talking to. Don't be afraid to walk into somewhere that you haven't been before, perhaps, a meeting or therapy or wherever it is. Just start where you're at. Try to be honest and just try to do the next right thing and grow one day at a time like we've talked about today. That's it.
All right. Perfect. Short and sweet. Love it. All right, Ashley, you did a great job. And we're going to sign out real quick. Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. Everybody follow us on Twitter, check out our Instagram, follow us on Facebook, leave us questions, like us, retweet, subscribe, invite your friends, invite your mom, invite all your friends to come share their stories with us because they're important and they're needed. But most of all important, everybody out there, stay safe and stay clean.